Alveolar bone, which once supported natural teeth, begins remodeling immediately following tooth loss and undergoes significant structural changes. It has been well established that approximately 40 to 50% of horizontal and vertical bone loss occurs within the first few months after extraction, a process recognized as a normal physiological response. This was confirmed in the landmark study by Schropp et al. In 2003. Notably, Araujo and Lindy experimentally demonstrated that post-extraction resorption of the alveolar ridge occurs predominantly at the buccal plate. This buccal-centered bone loss is not a random phenomenon. It is closely tied to the anatomical position of the root prior to extraction. Supporting this, Kahn et al. In 2011 analyzed sagittal root positions in the anterior region using CBCT and reported that approximately 80% of cases displayed a Class 1 configuration, meaning the root was in close proximity to or in direct contact with the labial cortical plate. This anatomical relationship between root position and the buccal cortical plate helps explain the selective resorption pattern we observe after extraction. Taken together, these findings reinforce the concept that alveolar bone is inherently tooth-dependent and therefore a dynamically changing structure, not a stable foundation. Over the past 30 years, implant therapy has focused on preserving or regenerating alveolar bone to restore natural form. Buser demonstrated the potential of GBR, and Matteo Chiapasco et al. Reported clinical outcomes of bone augmentation. As these techniques evolved, prosthetic-driven implant positioning became the ideal approach, shaping bone to match the desired prosthetic outcome. As a result, bone augmentation became essential for achieving this concept. Criteria were set from the beginning to permit a certain degree of margin. While these approaches have shown certain clinical benefits, however, long-term clinical observation shows that not only residual alveolar bone, but also regenerated bone from GBR or grafting continues to remodel and restore over time. This means regenerated bone is still part of the alveolar system and remains subject to biological change. In other words, both preserved and regenerated bone are ultimately changing bone. Therefore, expecting long-term stability from this foundation has clear limitations. We understand how alveolar bone changes after extraction, yet we have continued trying to rebuild it and restore natural form through prosthetic-driven positioning. But now the question should change. Should we reconstruct a changing bone or choose bone that remains stable? This is not just a technical issue, it is a shift in philosophy. Humans cannot overcome nature. By working in harmony with it and focusing on achievable outcomes, it may be more rational to select stable conditions within biological limits rather than attempting to fully control it. This approach simplifies surgery and prosthetics and leads to less morbidity, fewer complications, and more stable long-term outcomes. Ultimately, implants should not be placed based on changing alveolar bone, but on stable bone that is less affected by natural remodeling. Alveolar bone is not implant bone. Implants should not follow changing bone. They should be placed in stable bone.